Welcome, folks, to episode 213 of the Morgue, the official Corpsefeed podcast. And I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Tex, howdy. How are you, man?
Oh, man. Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. So this week, jumping into the coming attractions, we have the trailer that we've kind of went under the radar for the last week, mostly because we were going to talk about it before, but it got lost in the shuffle, etc., etc. Enough setting the table for the companion, for companion. This is a nice little thriller trailer that kind of seemed to pop up. I forget which movie it was that I went and saw that it popped up with, and I was like, "Oh, Arturo, what is it? Was it Joker? Okay, yeah, it might have been. It might have been Joker because it was a WB thing." But I was like, "Oh, Arturo, this is a trailer I've never seen. It's got Jack Quaid in it. It's got the girl from Boogeyman, and I believe Yellow Jackets. I forget what else she's been in.
And Heretic, actually, the upcoming Heretic.
There we go. Yeah. So like, it's got a notable enough starring duo that like I'm very interested in because I don't know what kind of movie it is, but it looks to be like a thriller kind of mindy kind of thing.
Yeah, dude. I saw this trailer in my most recent outing to the theater, which we'll be talking about later on the coming attractions. Yeah, this trailer just it looks unique, right? It looks
got
interesting.
Something, right?
It looks something good. Like there's something going on for sure. Like the vibes are definitely there, especially the last shot of the trailer where she's holding her hand over the fire, and like she's just on like her hands all caught on fire completely. You don't know if that's real or not, but it just looks really interesting. I'm a fan of Quaid. I love his stuff in The Boys. I actually liked him in Scream 5. And I think he has that stalker, creepy, like serial killer kind of look to him,
he's got that something, right? That like
he can get away with that, Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got such a nice guy look to him that like if you film it in a different way, right, you can easily see how it goes all twisted, right? And
yes,
I
absolutely,
think, yeah. And it's like what we saw with Scream because he wasn't the issue with Scream 5. Let's just put that out there. As we talk about, speaking of Scream, so Scream 7 officially is coming out in like 2026. Nev Campbell is officially on board, and I do have complicated feelings about all of that because it's the whole it's what happened to the previous star and her being fired because of her views on certain things. We won't get into that, but I just have complications in terms of like, what kind of Scream is it?
I'm glad we're on this tangent. Only because like you're absolutely right. Like, what should we expect, right?
Yeah.
Because now you have 5 and 6. Is this like this alternate universe that lives?
Yeah. Are they not going to count? Right.
Yeah, that's my concern too, because so much work and effort was put into those two movies. I'm not the biggest fan of those two movies, but I know that they have a huge following. Like there are a lot of Scream fans out there that really enjoyed the work of Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega inside those movies, and they liked what Sam, which turned out to be Billy Loomis's daughter, what that was going to be in terms of potential. And yes, there was something there with that, right? Like that was a cool kind of idea, but in execution, it didn't really turn out that well. But I am curious to see what they're going to do now. Like, are they going to completely like just follow Nev in wherever the fuck she is now,
Yeah, because that's the thing. You're throwing out everything because unfortunately that's going to be the case because Jenna Ortega is not going to be in this either. So it's like, are they never going to reference the events of 5 and 6 again? Is it, because stuff happens in 5, like big stuff happens.
Spoiler alert, right?
Spoilers, but
Dewey's dead.
Dewey's gone, so it's
poor Dewey.
Are they gonna just
miss you every day, Dewey?
Yeah, are they gonna acknowledge that part and then just kind of keep moving with Nev, like Arturo said? Are they gonna keep doing a Sydney story when at this point, like in this point of the franchise, she's no longer kind of the heart of the story. Like it was always kind of somewhat adjacent to Sydney up until part 5, really, where they kind of threw it all out. Where they
You know
were,
what though? You know what though?
oh,
I do have to say though, part 4 really started that little transition away from Sydney Prescott and
part
her drama, you know?
this is why it's like I love
Yeah.
part 4 so much, because
Part
part 4 was it.
Yeah.
Like part
It
4 was
thank you. It was it.
part
Like,
4 was a
that's
perfect finale,
that's the
right?
story, especially
Yes.
where Sydney would be able to naturally disconnect from that universe, right?
Yes.
Like, man, what, well, whatever, folks.
Yeah, right. This is all
We'll
to
talk
say,
more about this, when we
yeah,
get more news of Scream and
it's
all
all to
that
say
stuff. Yeah.
what a shame, right? Like what a shame that now we're at part 7 and we don't know what's going to happen.
My
I wish we're
daughter
under.
likes part 5 a lot, you know, like, she
And
likes
see,
those characters,
there you
you
go.
know?
See, that's
Yeah.
who it's for. And
Yes,
so
exactly. But she
this
also likes
is
part 1 and 4 as well. You know, she knows,
okay,
man.
good.
She
So
knows.
she
She
knows
knows the deal.
quality. Yeah, she okay, so we're not having any pretenders
But
here.
again, she does like those new characters. Like, she is a fan of Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrett's character. Like, those characters actually, like, honestly, all of them call to a newer generation, a younger
Yeah,
generation, and they were good characters, you know?
this is
Yeah.
Scream 5 wasn't the issue.
No.
This is, once again, we do have to say
Yeah.
this, like it's not like Scream 5 was the issue. It was Scream 6 that really was like, okay, you didn't know what you were going to do for a sequel, and kind of threw it all away. So I guess we'll just see. So Arturo, we have to move on from this slasher franchise to another
To
that is
another. Yeah.
that's being held up as like a horror icon in the community, that is like being held up as like it's on a legendary run on the same pedestals of like Freddy Krueger and Jason of like Friday the 13th and
Alright,
Michael
alright,
Myers and
alright,
Halloween.
alright, alright.
No, I have to set this up, Arturo. I have to set the
Alright.
table for
Yeah,
this,
you do, because this is what's being
because
said out there. Yeah.
yes, I need your review of Terrifier 3. Full disclosure, I did not see this, and once again, I will say this just like I said in every one of these movies, I have no desire to ever see these. But
Part 1 is on
Arturo's,
Tubi, though. Part 1 is on
yeah,
Tubi.
but
If you are
Arturo
gonna
has
see
asked
anyone
me,
of
yeah.
them, if you are gonna see any of the Terrifiers, it is the first one. It is on Tubi. Because that one just, it's nice and simple, you got what you got in that one. It's when they started expanding everything in part 2, that, it started my issue with this whole thing, because the story sucked. And on top of that, it was 2.5 hours. I was like, "No, you don't do that to a fan. You don't do that to anyone, period." But then we got part 3. Um, and this one, honestly, it's dude, it's more of the same shit. Like, yeah, it is. Like, and it sucks too, because like
Well, I mean, of
they
course, right?
they
This is
push
what it
this
offers.
like Christmas agenda, right? Which is like what a missed opportunity for them to actually dig into that Christmas stuff and have them go into the houses as Santa. That only happens in one instance, and that's right in the beginning of the movie. The opening sequence is what, you know, like people think he's like this like Santa going into people's houses and stuff. Even like in the synopsis, like it talks about it like he's like legit a Santa Claus going from house to house. And if that was the case, that would have been cool. Actually, that would have been something I would have been like, you know what? That's a cool idea. It's nice and simple. He's just having fun. But like it's when they try to like expand into the story. So they bring back the same story they tried in part 2. They expanded it with some unfortunate consequences, because now on top of like it being this weird time jump of 5 years, right? It also calls it into effect like the same actress and the same character from part 2, but also like I didn't care about their characters in part 2. Why should I care about them in part 3? And the time jump is weird because, like, again, why would anyone care about that 5-year jump? And like, he's what has he been doing these last 5
Yeah.
years? You know,
So yeah,
it's a lot
already
of
it raises the question of like, why is there lore, right? Because
yeah,
like, because from what I understand, looking at the outside in, is that they're gore fests, like, and it's
that's
for
it.
the
Yeah.
fiends who enjoy that, and more power to you if you do, if that's all you want to see in movies with just violence and no substance. But if that's the other thing too. If that's what these movies are trying to be, then okay, like shout outs to them. If you get to
That's
be
why part 1 works because, like, it's like, okay, it's this creepy clown during Halloween, right? During Halloween, it's this creepy clown, who is just in it to win it. The dude is carrying a bag full of weapons and stuff like that. Just he's out there just to create evil. But then it's when you start being cute with it. Like, for instance, you guys, saying you guys, the community out there, the horror community itself has deemed this like iconic and all this other stuff. First of all, like, these iconic movies have a simple formula themselves, right? Jason, we all know there's a formula there, right?
right.
Here, there isn't. Like, there's no formula. Like, this is just a bloodbath, right? Like, it's just him going through from point A to point B to point C, killing. So when they try to make a story out of it, guy doesn't know how to write a story. Sorry, Mr. Leone, right? You don't know how to write a script, all right? Like, your story sucks. It lags. It's missing beats. It's terrible in continuity on top of that. If you're gonna film something, make sure you are aware of day and night situations because you have a scene that's supposed to be during the nighttime, but it looks like it's daytime because of the windows behind the characters. And then at the same time, it's like pure night while Art the Clown is doing something. It's it's a very it's not good, just in terms of everything. And my big gripe with this is you guys know I love my violence, I love my brutality, but I also love my stories. Like, I want to be able to be captivated by a character and follow that character through their journey, right?
Yeah, yeah, because you really only get one, right? You only get like once again, I bring up like the Hatchet series, right? Because you get the one, you get the first time where you get the this is just gonna be violence, this is
Yeah.
just gonna be what we do, and then that's it. In Hatchet, you get that's the one you get, right? That
But
first
listen,
one,
like, to the defense of Hatchet, right? There was a formula. It was always tourists going into the property of Crowley, right? Why the
right?
fuck are you going on this person's property, right? That's the formula in Hatchet. Like, it was always a tourist thing that started. It all started right, um um in New Orleans during I forgot what the festival is called. Mardi Gras. They had a tourist down there. They were like, "Oh, let's take a tour down to Victor Crowley's stuff and all that." It's like that's the formula there. Like, Crowley isn't infiltrating the streets of New Orleans to wreak havoc. Crowley is staying in his location. You go there, that's the formula. That's where it starts. Here it's different. Um, and I don't know why they decided to like go with an actual try to go with a full like blown narrative on this thing when they just had their simple formula. Like, their simple formula in part 1 was, oh, Art the Clown's walking down the street, right? Or he's in some kind of venue. He sees the victim, starts doing his little clown shtick, follows them the rest of the way, right? That works. That's fine, right? Because it's nice and simple. You understand it. Bad guy, good guy. This is what's going to happen. He's going to be chasing them. It's a cat and mouse game, pretty much, right?
Right.
When you do the story thing that you did in part 2, you try to make it complicated, right? And then you bring that same storyline 5 years later into part 3, but then you add this whole other dimension of demonic possession into it, which is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
Like, what are you doing?
that's like a part 4 or 5 move.
Dude.
That's not something you do in
And then
part
and
like
then on top of that, it was bringing back a character that he mutilated in part 1, right? That, like, apparently this character, I think her name was Victoria, completely mutilated, like, survived the attack, right? But just done, right? Oh, no, no, no. I'm sorry. Was it that yes. Am I thinking of the right movie? Either way, this character was mutilated in part 1, right? And they brought her back in part 3 and now they said that she's possessed by a demon. So much so that the biggest icky portion of the movie, the big um the big set piece, I should say, can't even call it that, is when Art the Clown is killing somebody and then this demonic this woman possessed by this demon comes in with a glass and just starts, going to town at herself with this piece of glass down in her privates and stuff. And it was like
Yeah, I hate that. Like I'm already just listening to this. I'm like,
it's like why,
because
like
that's the thing. Like
why,
you know, extreme ultra violence. It's for the fans who like it. More power to you. That's the thing. Is like the movie buff in me is like, yeah, praise as much as I hate the idea of these movies. I'm also not gonna completely knock them because they are lower budget movies getting lower budget horror getting theatrical releases, right? This is at the end of the day, these are independent horror films that
yeah, they
get to
really
make it
are.
to
There's like
theaters,
5
and
studios attached to this thing. So yeah.
yeah, and they do make some money and they do get attention. So kudos on that front.
Yeah.
I can praise you for what you're doing, but I don't have to like it. And that's the thing. And this is why, like, even when I'm sitting here thinking, oh, maybe I'll give it a chance, because Arturo's like, oh, you got to see some of this, because that's the thing. It's, but hearing that is like, oh, okay, that's the kind of extreme stuff that I don't want to see.
Yeah,
and
it's
and like, but that's the thing. Like, I guess like that question that leads me to the next question, Arturo, is in that extreme stuff. Like, I don't know, is there like does it feel like innovative in how extreme it gets compared to, because this is the third one of these. So
yeah,
is it does it is it feeling
that's
like, is it feeling cartoonish, or is it feeling like, okay, we've reached the point of no return? Because Leon, he's gone out and said that he wants to do like one or two of these, and then probably end it with like one or two. Probably, he's gonna get to like 4 or 5 or 6 and then end it there, or 10. But like, does it feel like these movies are evolving in that ultra violence, Arturo? Like, at
no.
least does it feel like something's improving with each one?
No, in fact, actually, I think in terms of creative kills, this one could be the worst one because we've seen everything this guy's capable of already. For instance, the major kill that this franchise is known for is this upside down, you know, cutting in half of a woman while she's hanging upside down and stuff in part 1. That's the major one, right? That's the one
Mm-hmm.
that that's the one you see on all the socials like, "Oh my god, look at this kill. One of the best kills ever." Blah 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 blah. Blah. All that other nonsense. But in part 3, that's mimicked, but now the corpse is on the floor now, or the body, however you want to call it. It's on the floor now, and he's cutting it in half again, with the chainsaw. So it's like we've done this before. And
So
the big
it's
difference
the
this
same
time,
old tricks.
it was a
Okay.
dude, and they had a nice big focus on his privates as it goes in half. I'm like, oh, so this is why you wanted to do the same kill, but with a guy this time. It's honestly, it's low hanging fruit. Um, again, um, I'm not trashing Art the Clown. I like the innovativeness of the character. I think he has a very fucking creepy ass look that just works. Like that's the thing. Like he's creepy already. I don't think like again, the gore is part of the idea because that's how it all fleshed out. But I think a character like Art the Clown, the look is so intense, and so effective that I don't think you need all the gore for Art the Clown to be a successful franchise. So what I'm saying is, folks, if you want to keep this thing around, right? I think a pivot in terms of
maybe dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, like it's not because it's not effective. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
okay, so it's gotten to the point where now it's kind of
yeah,
just a wash. Now it's all
yes,
just kind of like okay.
yeah, it's not effective. And then on top of that, like we've seen some of the stuff. What I didn't like this time around, aside from non-creative kills, was the heavy sound editing on the kills, like just like the axe wax and the hatchet wax and all the like hits and pounding were
Right.
just very overdone. And that was also like, oh, like come on, it was like you guys will see it when it comes out on streaming probably in a month or so. But
Yeah, watch it at home. That's
again,
what it sounds like. If you
watch the
want to
first
see it,
one.
yeah.
Terrifier 1 is on Tubi for the price of free. I do recommend that one if you do want to get into this one because it just goes overboard after part 1, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But anyways, folks, enough about Art the Clown. We are going to quickly touch upon the very awesomeness of this comic book world that we have been engulfed in for about a month now, right? Matt Reeves's Batman universe or cinematic detective dark
Yeah,
universe
it's
or whatever
something
he
like
wants to
that, right?
call it. Whatever he wants to call it, I am here for it because so far, folks, 4 episodes into the Penguin. And it has been one of the most outstanding shows I have seen attached to a comic book property since this whole Marvel DC thing started, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's you're not wrong, Arturo.
yeah,
It's very good. Just light spoilers for Penguin. Even yeah, because even I'm like I want to talk about it, but at the same time, like there's so many cool things that
yeah. You
happen,
guys
right?
need to
That
just watch it, man. You
yeah,
guys need to just watch it.
this is just a small update to say that we reviewed the first 2 episodes when we did our first impressions, and after episode 4, it's kind of gone in a way that I didn't really see coming. Like I didn't expect to like it this much, right?
Yeah,
Like because Colin Farrell's Penguin, he's the kind of character that he's like
I got my own
by
team.
the
You know?
yeah, by the end of episode 3, I was absolutely rooting for him. But then, like when at the start of episode 4, you see him from Sophia's angle, and you see what he does, where he's like very slimy and is only protecting himself, and
Very
like
Penguin-esque of him. I love it.
yeah, and it reminds you that yeah, he's a villain, like
He's a
he's a
fucking
Batman,
penguin. He's the
yeah,
penguin.
he's
Duh.
a Batman villain. So of course, like I shouldn't be rooting for this guy, but and this is the beauty of the show because like by the end of episode 4, I'm like, yo, I'm all in on Sophia,
Oh my goodness.
even though like we all know at the way these shows work that only one of them is going to make it out of this, right? Like you can't have like 2 kingpins essentially. So like I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how Victor Aguilar's place in this plays out. Like his role is very interesting too, because like we learned more about him and what happened to him, and his life got messed up by the Riddler.
Yeah,
But
dude, the
then like
Riddler messed up Gotham hardcore, man. And I'm really glad that this show kind of goes into the scope of the damage caused by the Riddler
yes,
because in in the Batman movie, you only see the damage from the view of the Madison Square Garden area they have there, right? And here you just find out about exactly how everything's been just impacted in Gotham, like completely changed the landscape of all of Gotham and its crime and underground and everything, like literally and figuratively, because everything's flooded now. Like legit, the town is just like done, done because of the Riddler. So that's how awesome that villain was in terms of the impact and scope of the damage,
yeah, and
Love
that's
it.
probably the biggest Batman villain thing that we've ever gotten. Like,
Yeah.
and it's even looking back, right? You look back at the
Yes.
past, all the other films, it's like, well, yeah, like even the Joker, the most the Joker has done, it was like he almost blew up like a boat full of people, but did it was more like a game he was playing
I
with
mean,
Batman, or the
maybe you could
most he
say
did was like kill what's her name Maggie Gyllenhaal,
yeah,
or and then like burned Harvey Dent's face. That's the most he did, but
but possibly Bane and Talia Ghul when they completely took over Gotham. But that
Yeah,
wasn't as like explicit as this
yeah,
moment of
because
just
this is
complete flooding of the city, you
yeah,
know?
and the show is taking a very hard look at like what that means through
Yeah.
Penguin's eyes, and like I'm very curious to see where it's gonna go because once again, it's like we're watching a criminal, and like that's the thing. It's like at times I'm like, man, he's saying all the right things, but then you realize, oh, I've also been charmed by him because this is just what he's good
Yes.
at, right? Like,
Yes, exactly.
and then you
I'm
have the
like, God
Sophia
damn it, Oz.
Falcone part of it all, that she's very innocent. She's been through some terrible, terrible things, and to get to this, and like I kind of want to see her win too, right? And like
Yes.
I can't wait to see where the end of episode 4
Dude,
goes. I don't
the
want to give that
betrayal.
away
The
because it's
betrayal.
yeah, like Sentani, like that whole sequence is just like fantastic, and like I can't wait to see where all that goes. Penguin has me, and like what's so funny is that when Penguin's over, I'm gonna be so hyped for Batman 2. And Batman 2 ain't coming out till like 2026, bud. And that's I'm like, man, I really wish we were still getting Batman 2
Hey, but
next
right
year.
now, we just said, right? At least 2026 is gonna be
And
a banger so far, right? We got
yeah,
the Batman 2 coming out, we got Scream 7 coming out, right?
and you know, it's funny, just a little small little side tangent with like the whole Superman and Batman thing, right? Like
Oh,
I know James Gunn is like, yeah, I don't want like I want my own Batman, like his own created Batman, but you got this perfect Gotham right here, right? Like I I know people are like, oh well, Superman, his James Gunn Superman wouldn't gel with like this Batman, but like, isn't that the point,
that's
right?
the point, right?
Isn't that the
World's
point of
finest,
the
right?
crossover
Night and
between the
day,
two of them?
right?
Yeah,
Yin
like
and yang, the black and white cookie. Look to the cookie.
yeah, and like throwing Superman into the mix wouldn't ruin this realistic version of Gotham. I think that's the whole point of Superman. He's supposed to be so otherworldly, and it's just like a but he can't do what Batman does in Gotham, right? Like he can't do the street level stuff. He's just a being, right? He's so like
He's a god.
he yeah, he's a god who like he's gonna rescue people from like burning buildings and stuff, but he's not gonna be sitting there trying to investigate a penguin or Sophia Falcone who are like doing all this, right? And like that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, man, I don't want another Batman because that means another Batman means another Penguin, another universe when we're already so invested. I think that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like,
I'm getting a little bit more concerned as we approach Superman in
right?
2025 because
Yeah, we just that once again, it just needs to succeed, right? Like,
yeah, because there's it just I know we're going on a tangent here. Wasn't part
no,
of the
no, I
agenda,
mean, this
but
is what we
like,
gotta do. Yeah.
it is getting a little concerning because we're getting all these projects, all right, around what James Gunn's universe is gonna
Oh
look
yeah,
like and everything.
they've casted like the Green Lanterns
The Green
as of
Lantern
this
show, right?
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's the Green Lantern show going on. There's the animated one, right? That he
Yeah, there's
has
like an
going on.
animated Nightwing movie or something that they're doing.
And then
Yeah.
there's the Doom Patrol. No, not Doom Patrol. The like his band of misfits that he has,
Oh
right?
yeah, his Creature Commandos
Yes,
that's
Creature
coming out.
Commandos, and then
Yeah.
he has the Authority also, like part of the plan.
Oh
Like,
yeah, the Peacemaker's still happening. We're
yeah,
gonna still getting
there's
season
just a
2.
lot going on, and it hasn't been as positive as the stuff from Matt Reeves's Batman universe.
Yeah, and you look at 4 episodes of Penguin, and it's like, yo, this has been
And I'm like, yo, are we gonna get this in 2025, James Gunn? No, we have nothing to do with that universe. Oh,
yeah,
so what are you gonna give us
yes,
then?
there you go. That's the perfect way to sum all this up. Is like we're getting incredible television here, and to have it condensed to just that its own, like to have it be its own thing, is that's not the best move. Like it's like, yo, I know you're starting a new DC universe or whatever, but it's like, yo, don't throw out what's working. Like let us if after the Penguin we need to do like the Hangman or something like this after for a Falcone show or something,
Oof,
like
oof.
let's do it, man. Like I'm in for as long as they want to do this, for as many
Yeah,
shows as they
yeah.
want to do. Like
I am in.
I'm
It
in.
totally got me. And I cannot wait to see next week's episode. Make sure you folks catch The Penguin. It's streaming on Max right now, with a new episode dropping every Sunday at 9 p.m. And now, folks, we got a double feature presentation for you guys coming up. Welcome back, and we have a double feature presentation for you guys. And this one is great because this double feature presentation you can enjoy from the comfort of your own home. This is a Netflix double feature for you guys. And the first one on our list is the only sequel to La Plataforma, The Platform 2. So The Platform, if you guys are not aware of it, was a movie that came out, I think was what, in 2021, 2022, 22?
Yeah, it was
Right?
definitely like height of the pandemic. This was
Yeah,
definitely one of
right?
those that like it took off on Netflix because we were all at home like watching Netflix. Like it was definitely one of those. It was
Yeah.
like it was Squid Game adjacent where everybody was like kind of watching streaming around the same
Yes.
time.
Yes,
So like
exactly.
and that like Arturo was setting up that movie, it made an impact because it was such a new thing. Like it had such a different idea. It wasn't like a full like it wasn't a death game, but it had that kind of setup. Like it had a
Yeah.
very interesting sci-fi
Yeah,
setup
like
to it.
the idea was definitely something that I've never seen really in a horror movie or genre movie before. But it's the idea of this prison or location pretty much. I can't really put my whether it's a real prison or not, because in part 1, it's a prison. In part 2, it's like an experiment, or
Yeah.
a prison of some sorts. But pretty much there are 300 plus levels in this whole facility, and the whole gimmick is that everyone has a little bit of food that they can take from this platform that goes level by level. And in part 2, that gimmick gets a little bit explored more, but not to the way I would have hoped or imagined, honestly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that first film already starts to open up the world behind the prison. Like
yeah,
that first film, we already see the people making the food at the top to like send it below. We've already seen that. We've already seen like the deepest level of the thing. We've already seen the gimmick. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like we've seen it. We saw the whole thing. So with platform 2, you're like, oh, well, I guess this is going to show us more outside of the prison. We're going to see more of how it was set up. No, this is just like another story within it, which in itself is fine on paper, I would say, right? Like an idea of just like, oh, just another story within the platform, fine on paper, right?
yeah,
This is just more people going through their stuff. It's just when watching the movie, and how poorly executed it does this idea, it makes it unnecessarily complicated by like trying to tie itself back into the first one and like bringing back characters from the first one and then finding out at the end, spoilers for platform 2, even though it's like, yeah, this is a stay away from it. This is like
yeah.
even if it's on Netflix. Oh, we didn't even say that. Yeah, even if it's on Netflix,
No, I did, I did, I did. I
oh,
did
my
mention
bad, my
Netflix.
bad.
Yeah,
I didn't say that. Like, yeah, like you find at the end it's a prequel to the first movie, but
yeah.
then like it raises all sorts of questions about
Like,
like,
wait a minute.
yes, like it's so like unnecessarily complicated. Like and
And
it's
there's no
just not as
payoff either,
good.
right?
Yeah, like
Like,
it
there's no payoff whatsoever in that movie.
yeah, that's 100% correct, Arturo. Because like when you find out it's a prequel, it's more of a so what instead
Like,
of like a oh like, instead of going oh it all makes sense now. You're more just like okay so you're like okay so it's tied to the first one. Who cares? Like
but is it a
it's not
prequel
like
though, right? Because, like, spoilers, because who cares? It ends with the protagonist in level 333, or the last level, right? But then she encounters the dude from part 1 down there.
yes
So is it a prequel?
yes because he comes down after her, and this is the whole thing of like yeah and um which is another confusing thing on top of that, because you have the wine, like you have the Ovio guy who is like fantastic, right? Like you
Yeah, but
see him again, you're like, oh, and when he says obviously again, you're like, yeah, it's real Leo Leonardo DiCaprio
the
point of the
dirtbag,
speed
that
moment.
guy, he's such
Yeah,
like an evil person.
yeah, like, but it's what makes him great,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
He's
He
just
he legit is like a little devil, man, little demon
yeah,
in there.
that's what makes him fantastic, you know. But you see him and you're like, oh, it's that guy, and that's what makes it complicated. Because yes, this is tied. This is the
Because
first.
how is it that she sees him from part 1 down there? If remember, because in
Because he
part
comes
1,
down after her. That's the whole thing. Is like he's the implication is that he is far from the first person who's had this idea of like trying to save a kid, and then because apparently in platform 2 that's part of the experiment, because the whole time you see a bunch of kids playing around,
yeah, that was
and then
confusing
one
too.
one kid is selected by another character from the first movie. I forget her name, but like she was also in the first movie, which made it even this once again, this is even messier than it needs to. And the kid is purposely placed on floor 330 to be the one
333.
that
Yeah.
be the one they eventually save. And we see at the end of platform 2 that this has happened multiple times, where people ride down with the kid and then they send the kid back up, and you have tons of people down in the black dark pit, and then the guy comes down from platform 1 and then they hug each other. But it's like, oh, okay, I guess
Oh,
they
so, like,
knew.
I guess, like, when she's on her way down, platform 1 is going on then, right?
Yes, yeah,
But then the
I think
Ovio guy who was down there with her for a while, and then I guess he went back up when they reset,
yeah,
right?
yeah, because that's how she like that's the big difference between that one and the first one, is that we do get to see how they're setting up, like, and how they would
That's
dispose of the
cool. You see,
bodies.
but you see, like, that's what I needed more of, like the
We
backbones
needed more of
of
the
this,
experiment,
of
yes,
this
more.
system. Like, what is this all about? Why are we here? You know,
And
like,
instead, dude, yeah,
because,
right,
like,
like
it starts out with interviews, so you're like, "Wait a minute, I thought this was a prison." But now it seems like it's an experiment, an experiment they're choosing to be in, right? But then, like, one of them seems to be like, "Oh, I'm here because of my past." And I'm like, "Wait, did they send you here? Did you volunteer for this?" You know, like the guy with the pizza, one of the most interesting characters of the movie who gets killed off super quickly, right? Like, he seemed like he was in jail before for arson, you know? So it's like, what's going on here in terms of the selection of the people? How are they coming into this experiment? How are they finding out about it? I thought that's what we were going to get a little bit more of. Unfortunately, like Tex just said, we just got another story within the platform, which is fine in retrospect, but like, don't give me a whole movie of that, you know, like just
yeah,
give me an anthology, call it the platform, and
yeah,
then we're good.
so much time is spent on like this whole cult that's basically taking over, this leader who
Yeah.
like who sucks. Like
Oh,
it's a terrible character.
Babin or
Ter-
whatever his name
yeah,
is,
terrible gimmick
Bilbo
that they're like,
Baggins.
oh, well, we're here to make sure everybody eats what they're only supposed to eat or whatever. And like
Terrible.
then they get in fights with people who just don't give, like, the barbarians,
And
who
again,
like
too,
just
like
do.
these laws, like how are these, like who put these laws in place? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
it's this cult
why
that
is
put
it you
these
can
laws
only
together.
eat what you kind of ordered? You know what I mean? Like is the point of the experiment, is the point of the experiment to see how civil people are in a certain situation? You know what I mean? Like,
We
I
will
don't know.
never know. We'll never
We'll
know.
never know. And
And
sadly, um, that took us a long time to watch and to talk about. We spent too much time on the platform too, folks. Go watch that on Netflix. Watch
yeah,
part one.
it's
Part one's
no,
part
yeah, don't watch part 2.
yeah, don't watch part
Honestly,
two.
maybe don't even watch part 1. Like, I think this has kind of soured me so much of the
Yeah,
platform that I'm
you
like,
know
you know
what though,
what?
Tex? How about this? How about you folks watch this
Yes.
upcoming movie? Right. Now for the main headliner in this double feature Netflix presentation, right? Our Netflix double feature presentation, whatever you want to say. It is the one, the only, It's What's Inside. Folks, this is what we are talking about when we are talking about a good movie with a good story, writing a freaking streamer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It So it doesn't
oh my
seem like a
goodness.
Netflix movie,
It
right? Like
doesn't. It is too good to be on Netflix. In
that
fact,
that
like I thought this could like if you step A24 on this thing and put it in theaters, I'd be like, okay, no problem,
I
right? 'Cause
so that's how I'll start
or
this off,
Neon,
Arturo.
A24
Yeah,
or Neon, stamp it on there, put it in a theater, you know?
that was my exact first
Right?
thought. Like, as soon as I wrapped it up, it was, it's total pay for it on my end. It's
Total
total
pay
like,
for it.
yeah, check
Agreed.
it out.
Yeah.
As soon as it ended, I was like, yo, I would have seen that in theaters. Like, I kind of wish, like, it's kind of that good. Like, I kind of wish I wish I got to see it in theaters because its production, its casting, its
Oh,
story, it's so well done that nothing about it screams like this was a Netflix movie. This is definitely like one that they bought somewhere. They bought this off of somebody. Like this was already made, and this was definitely like a this has I didn't look into this, but this has to have been one that like a Talk to Me, right? Like how Talk to Me debuted in festivals, they got
yeah.
bought by like
Yeah.
A24. This is definitely that kind of thing. Like this is like it's good, man. Like
It's really good, Tex.
it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, folks, like off the bat, you guys know our scale, right? Stay away from it, aka platform 2, right? Um, wait for it. Meaning you guys can wait for it. And you can watch it at home whenever it drops on a streamer or pay for it. You can either get the trial or you can go to the theater and pay for it. And honestly, folks, this is one you need a trial for because this movie is definitely worth the price of admission. Um, I would even pay a month the subscription just to
Yeah,
rewatch the movie a couple
get your
times. You know what I mean?
get your cousin's password. Yeah,
Yeah.
get somebody like
It is
figure out how to
really
see this
good.
one.
It is
Yeah.
a really, really good movie, and honestly, one of the best movies I've seen all year. Just in terms of its technical like execution, it was just absolutely it was a joy to watch, to be honest. I haven't said that a
Yeah.
lot this year, but it was truly a joy to watch this movie because of just how they use the camera, how they use the lighting, how they use the split screen techniques, how they use all of the fancy, nerdy film techniques and magic behind the camera. They used it and it was super successful in that department alone. And then you have the story, and then you
Yeah.
have this amazing cast, which was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a bunch of unknowns. I've never seen them. I don't know if they're like TV stars or anything. Like I didn't recognize.
I think Cyrus I might have seen somewhere. I don't know where the character who played Cyrus, but even then, dude, like my goodness, Tex, like this was definitely out of nowhere.
Yeah, and
Out of nowhere.
it it's especially notable because it's such like a heady concept, and it's such a concept that a worse movie could have been way up its own
Oh,
butt
yes.
about it.
Yeah.
Because like that's
1000%.
the thing. Arturo's like praising its technical qualities and its technical skills in the production and its presentation, all that stuff, but it never once feels like it's artsy, quote unquote.
No, it
It
doesn't.
never it's totally digestible. It's totally like made with general entertainment in mind. Like
Mhm.
it's made for viewer experience. So like if you're sitting there, you're gonna enjoy everything because it's meant to like keep you actively engaged in how it all plays out. Because that's the thing is you need to be engaged. You need to because it's a body swapping movie, and its setup is genius. Like
Yes.
it's a bunch of people who are friends in college getting together because one of them's getting married, and like they're having a party by themselves the night before. And then one of their friends who's like they explain this through like a flashback that they kind of like it's coolly
Love it.
edited
Yeah.
too because it's like
Yeah.
it's through photos that they kind of stick together, kind of move around
Yeah, stills and
as
moving
people
images, yeah.
yeah, as people tell different parts of the story and they like correct each other and stuff like that. It's very interesting in how they do it. But the whole thing is like one of them shows up and he's got this briefcase that helps them all switch bodies. And this is kind of like this is the gimmick that gets you in the door, and it's not long before it gets more complicated as you would expect. But what's unexpected is that how it gets more complicated. Because I thought, looking at it, I thought, oh, one of them's gonna start killing off the other ones or something. Because it kind of had that horror thriller vibe of like,
Yeah,
oh,
it
okay.
did.
But no, but when the central gimmick kicks in, and the movie really starts, and they all start distrusting one another, and they all start fighting, and like it's cool because you see the actor talking, but then like it does this thing where like then there's a red light around him, and you see the real person who's actually in that body.
I love that.
And it's super cool because one of my buddies pointed out that like the first time they do it, you don't see one of the people being swapped because that's the reveal at the end of the movie.
Yes, I noticed
like,
that
wow,
too. Yep.
Like I did not put that together because
I noticed that too. Yep.
They hit it so well because it starts off with when the body switching happens, it starts off so focused on one person that you're like, oh, okay, this is just the gimmick to show that he's inside this person's body.
But dude, it's funny, like I did notice that, but I didn't even think about like the end game there at all.
Right? Yeah.
No, I was like, oh yeah, he's just not there just because he's scheming or something. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool because I just thought it was just the way they're going to visually represent it, right? I'm like, oh yeah, they're just showing me that this is how they're going to show us that this is the real person inside. But then it's actually a secret revealing, like, oh, hiding the fact that the person who says they are in the beginning is not the person who says they are. Like, it's such a unique movie. Like, it's like, it's tough because I don't want to talk about it in too much story details.
Agreed. Same. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, honestly.
Because that's part of the fun is like getting to the finale, getting that, oh, there was actually another twist on top of everything else is like, yeah, that's a kind of a spoiler, but it's like the final button on the movie that it's like, oh, it was never right to begin with, right?
Dude,
like it was never,
This movie is what what Netflix hoped Glass Onion would have been like. You know what I mean? Like good, It's like, oh, we have this property, it's gonna be good. No, it wasn't. Like, this is the one that that they were looking for. This thriller, whodunit, genre bending, like movie that is just, as you mentioned, accessible to just any audience. You know what I mean? Like, for one, it's super sci-fi. Like, the theory is absolute sci-fi, but then they, as Tex mentioned, they simplify it so well that like you're like, oh, no problem. And then I love it because they don't really go hardcore into the machine or into like exactly how things work, which
because it ultimately doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter because you just know, oh, like you press that button, bodies change. You know what I mean?
And it's great because the characters in universe decide to play a game where they take Polaroids of themselves, and when they figure out who's who, they put the Polaroid on themselves, and then it's a cool way in universe to like have them make that decision. But when you're thinking about it visually, it's just a good visual reminder of like, oh, okay, this person's this person, right?
Yeah,
and it's like,
and to your point, in terms of like the people and the games they're playing. Like, this cast, Tex, they were able to like,
dude,
like they were able to mimic each other, like character and cadence and way of moving and everything. Like, it was just so well done. Like, you can tell they spent a good amount of time with each other, right? To just know how everyone kind of moves, how they talk and everything. And I really love how every single actor and actress in this movie was able to just fucking just like do their job to the fullest, man. Like, it was so impressive to see, like, Ruben, for instance, this character Ruben, right? He was great. He is able to the actor who is playing Ruben is able to kind of get into these different situations where he's these other people, and it's like, wow, you can see how the change in acting is just there. Like, the performances from just everyone is just so, like, I can't say enough of it because I'm gonna start spoiling stuff. I don't want to do that for you guys because it's something you guys definitely have to see. And when you see it, you're like, holy crap, how the hell is this guy? It was wild.
It's wild, right? Because when you think about it, this could have all fallen apart if there was one weaker performance among them, right? Because the wild thing about this movie is that the characters are so well defined through these other bodies. Like, it's such like a kind of like a mind freak in a way where you're like, yo, so we know so much about how this character acts through another person, right?
Yeah.
Through a different body of the character. Like it's so weird when you think about it, right? It's like, oh, okay, we know exactly what kind of guy this Cyrus person is, even when that Cyrus person is within Ruben's body or
Yes.
within this body. And like the main character too, her whole thing is like, she's in like a bad relationship. And so my only issue is that like the kind of final button on everything is kind of left a weird taste in my mouth, because the boyfriend's an asshole, yes, but I don't know if his ultimate fate is like totally equals
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I
Like
agree.
I
I
don't
do agree
know
with that because it
it.
was a little extreme, right?
Yes,
But at
yes,
that point, I was like, whatever, man,
yes, and
whatever.
that's also where I settle with it too. It's like, you know, it might have been a little too extreme of an overreaction, but at the same
But
time, it's
yeah,
like you have so much fun during the
at the
movie.
same time, someone had to get the finger pointed at them, right? Like
Yes, and you're
there
like,
had to be
okay,
somebody there, and
and
you know
it
what,
might as
Tex?
well
Like,
be
damn,
the asshole
yeah.
boyfriend. You know what I
Like
mean?
we
It's
really cannot talk about this movie without spoiling it. So, you guys need to go out to Netflix. You guys need to watch this movie. There are so many things here. I think I have to watch this movie again before
yeah, like I kind of want to
month
see
ends.
if there were other signs
Yes, yes,
of
absolutely.
like
Like,
especially with like a lot of the camera techniques that they use, right?
yes, Tex. I'm
That's
telling
the
you,
thing
like,
too, right? It's so like on top of just being a well-made story and a well-written story, well performed, you have all this other technical stuff to look at
yes,
and enjoy, right?
and then on top of that, like, it's so well matched, right? The technical stuff with the narrative, right? That it goes hand in hand. Like you need the technical stuff in order for the narrative to work and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the technical stuff enhances the story, but it also helps tell the story. Like when there's color changes and you see like the true self inside the fake body and all that stuff. That's like key cues like that and cues where they split the screen up into three just to show different kind of things going on, like just really really well done techniques
Dude,
that could have gone fucking to the sideways if
yeah,
somebody
and
else did it.
it's also super trippy in a way too, because like
Yes,
they're also very drunk and under all sorts of other influences. So like when it goes all red,
yes,
you're like, yeah, it feels like
yes.
that kind of sense too. You're
and
like, oh, this is
And one thing
wild.
I really love, Tex, that I thought was the cherry on top was the fact that even when you switch bodies, you didn't have the mind of that person. So you didn't like know their secrets, which is like that's like low hanging fruit, like in horror. It's like, oh, I'm in this person's body. Oh, this person thinks this. No, no, no. Like I love how like all that stuff was discovered through conversations and other hangouts with other people when the body change happens. And I think that's was super smart to do it like that, man. No, you just changed the body. You didn't change the mind. Like it's the same person, but in this person's skin. It's man, such a good idea. Um, Such a well thought out story, act to act to act. Technically, like narrative wise, performance wise, even like the really cool elements that we got in terms of sci-fi and the practical stuff we got when the story, goes into the third act, like that looked really well done. Folks, like I can't really say like any more about this movie or I'm gonna give it all away. I
Yeah, I
really,
know it
really
sucks. It
like
sucks because I
X.
want to just be like,
I
yeah,
love
this
this movie,
happens,
Tex.
but
Tex,
that's
I
how
love
good
this
it
movie.
is.
I
Yeah,
love this movie, legit. And I think it's like I said before in the beginning, it's one of the best movies I've seen all year long.
yeah.
If not
Look,
the
I,
best right now, honestly, in terms of what I'm thinking about. Um, I haven't seen anything like technically that does it this good. I loved Strange Darling, but that was like a narrative, just a well done narrative. This one here, like filmmaking wise, dude, like just checks off all the fucking boxes, bro.
yeah,
Like it's
this is
eh,
like the substance. When we saw the substance, and we were like,
yes,
yeah, this is yeah. It
and
was kind
this
of
is on
scratching that.
Netflix, dude. Like
Yes, like Netflix kind of has like a secret hidden gem. They're not going to promote it, so definitely
they're
just
not
go
going to
watch
promote
it.
it, but you know what, folks? We will be
We
promoting
will.
this movie.
Yeah.
I will be pushing this out throughout the month of October until I get a horror movie that's fucking worth it. All right?
Yeah, because honestly,
Seriously.
that's the thing. Like, and it's not even full horror. It's more like thriller on the verge of horror and like
Yeah.
sci-fi, and like, and even then, it's still like a great spooky month
Yeah.
watch. Like,
Yeah.
this is perfect, dude. It's just when someone asks you, "Oh yeah, what movie?" Like when someone's like, "Oh, what should I watch?" For whatever, be like,
It's
"Oh,
what's
watch It's What's
inside.
Inside." Yeah.
Yeah. 1000%. And we will leave you with that, folks, because it's absolutely true. And thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 213 of The Morgue, the official Corpsefeed podcast. Once again, I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. And a big shout out goes to Delvirus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. Go check out his page. He is doing some awesome things besides tattooing. Go check him out. Give him a like, subscribe, and share over there. And a big shout out goes to you folks for listening. We know you guys are listening. We highly, highly appreciate it. Please give us a review. Give us some stars anywhere you get your podcast. We would really appreciate that. And we really appreciate you guys just still here with us. We have 200 plus now for you guys. And don't forget to go on YouTube. You can see at least 100 plus of these Morgue episodes on YouTube. Go like, subscribe, and share over there. Also, you can see any spoiler-free horror movie reviews dropped by myself on Scary World on the page as well. Go like, subscribe, and share on our socials. We are everywhere, folks. Again, thank you so much for listening. And remember, it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.